Welcome back, fellow shop rats. It's another Talk About It Tuesday, and it's a Monday right now, actually, and I'm running my tail off. But I had a couple things I wanted to share with you and thought this would be a great opportunity while I'm stuck in the truck to share them. So I want to do a little follow-up to the steering column rekeying episode that we just did a couple days ago. Got some thoughts for you, and I'd like to share them with you. So let's just sit down and talk about it. I'm Mike.
This is My Car's Shop.
So I did a little research after I got done with the episode while I was doing all the editing and stuff, and I was just curious on what costs would have been had I replaced some of the parts that I rebuilt or reused. And I didn't dig into everything, but I thought, well, you know, what would it cost for a new blinker arm and a new ignition tumbler and maybe a column wire harness and maybe even a brand new blinker switch? Well, some of it I could find and some of it I couldn't. And none of it is terribly expensive, although the wire harness and blinker switch could be a bit expensive. And if we replace the electrical part of the ignition switch, that could add up a little bit too. But what really caused me to think is just about the snowball effect or the exponential effect of each one of these little bites and how that plays out in the big picture of the project. For example, the ignition key tumbler, and by the way, this morning I did get a spare key cut. The ignition tumbler could be $30, $40, maybe $50, depending on where you buy it and the quality that you get. And that's not a whole lot of money, but, you know, that's one piece. And then the blinker arm could be $30 to $50 for that, if it's depending on the quality and stuff like that. And, well, the wire harness I never did find completely, but I did find some really good NOS, I won't say NOS, some really good ones out of vehicles that may be in a little bit better shape than what I have, and those were $100 to a couple $100. Like I said, the ignition electrical switch itself, I never really did see a price on that, but let's say it was $50 to $100 for that. Well, I don't even know what that all totals up to, but, you know, let's say we had, we would have had $200-$300, maybe up to $500 in refurbishing that column. Now again, in the big, huge scope of life, even though it's more than I can afford right now, it's not, you know, it's not a life or death bankruptcy type of expense. But in the bigger picture of a project, those little numbers can really add up. Even if we had just bought a new key tumbler and also a blinker arm, that would have been anywhere between $60 and $100 by the time we paid shipping. And again, in the big scope, that's not a huge amount of money. But if every little area of the project requires us to throw $50, $100, $200, $300 at it, how long does it take for all of that to add up into thousands of dollars? It's something worth thinking about, I think, and it's something worth talking about. Now, each one of us have our own financial position, and there certainly have been times in my life when money comes easier than time, and I do completely understand that. Many years ago, we did technology for a fast and upcoming wealth management company, and the CEO of the company had purchased some, I think it was an old 50s Ford pickup. It had a small block Chevy in it, and he knew I was a car guy, and my buddy Mark at the time was the vice president of that company, and so you know, Mark being a car guy and my friend, and so this guy had me look at this truck and wanted to know what my thoughts were, and so I started coming at it from the approach of, well, you can do this, and you can do this, and you can do this, and you can do this. And his response was very interesting and something I completely respect. His response was, I'd rather pay somebody else to do that and spend my time working in the business earning more money. I've definitely been there in my life where I've said, you know what, my time's worth more than this right now, and I'm just going to go ahead and buy these things for the project so that I can get moved further forward, Father. But generally, there's no value that I can put on the therapy that I get by doing these things myself. Okay, so $30, $40 for a new ignition tumbler and key, not going to break the bank. What did I have into rekeying it and swapping stuff over? didn't even have an hour, and I lost a tumbler and spent 20 minutes on my knees praying I could find that one little piece that I lost. To me, the therapy of that, the fun of it, the challenge of it, the can I do this? In that case, I've done it before, but each time you never know. Can I do this and make it work? That, to me, the reward is so much far exceeding even the value of the money at that point. The diehards and long-timers on the channel will definitely know that my motto is where so many people say, why in the world would I make that when I can just buy it? And mine is just the opposite. Why would I buy that when I can just make it? You know, a lot of you guys already know where I'm coming from on that, and you've heard it probably ad nauseum. But it was just really something to me to think about the money that I didn't have to spend. And if we save a couple hundred bucks in each little area of the project or more, is it any wonder why our total expense on this project is so very, very minimal? Because like with anything else, wealth isn't made by dollars. Wealth is made by pennies. It's paying attention to the pennies, to the little things, to the little expenses. We nickel and dime ourselves to death and then wonder why we're always so cash poor. And I'm preaching to the choir on that one because it's really easy for me to fall into that same way of thinking. I think the bottom line in all of this, and the word that I'm walking away from, which is why I'm talking about this today, is the value proposition of what we're doing. Now, if you're around business and wealth management and stuff like that, value proposition is a pretty common buzz phrase. But basically, what is the value of what we're doing and what's the trade-off, right? So my time, my money, my resources, my energy, all of those things come into the value proposition. And of course, the other thing, and one of you guys just mentioned it in a comment recently, the reward. I believe it was when I was fixing the trim for the front fender on the Challenger, the reward. I did that myself, and I don't think there's any value that I personally can put on that feeling, that sense of satisfaction of I did this myself. I think this is a very important topic to circle back around to on a regular basis here. Part of it is because of accountability for myself. I don't want to fall into being, when the channel grows and money comes freer, I don't want to fall into being the guy that just throws money at everything. I'm really committed to doing DIY things. As I mentioned in the trim episode, yeah, I can buy the wheel trim for $70 a piece. But maybe there's another project that you can't. And by demonstrating these techniques, some of which I feel are becoming a lost art, it's a way for some of these skills to be passed down from generation to generation to generation. I think that's just as important as anything. I mean, that's one of the big reasons I started the channel, was not just for the potential for income, because it's definitely, I've never hidden the fact that that's what I'm hoping for. The channel will become big enough that I can do this as a full-time job. But the second element in that is just for my own family, passing down some of those skills, and or at least exposing them to some of the ways of thinking and some of the things that the skills and techniques that I've accumulated in a lifetime. So I think that's just as important in many ways. And I think it's a reason to share these things. I'm certainly not saying that I'm an expert at all of it, but I know how to do a smattering of a lot of different things, and I do think those skilled things are important to pass on to other people. Somebody made a comment recently, I think it was Michael from over at Faro Iron and Customs, said something about he'd rather put the time into a part than swipe a credit card or something like that. Michael, I'm not exactly quoting what you said, but it really made me think about that. I don't want to pass down to future generations my ability to swipe a card. I want to pass down to future generations techniques and skills and skill sets that they can pass down to the next generation to keep this artistry alive, because it applies to more than just automotive restoration. if you really think about it. I had this in our house. We had a bunch of doors that were pretty beat up or broken or cracked. And we could have bought new doors, but there really was nothing wrong with those doors that couldn't be fixed. So I glued them back together to the best of my ability, skim coated them with tiger hair, sanded them down, and painted them, and they look great. Why go out and spend $100 or $200 on a door that I had for free, and I just had to put a little time into it, and nobody would know.
Nobody's gonna know.
Nobody would know that those doors were fixed that way unless they sand them down and fix them. They've been that way for years now, and they've never cracked. They look outstanding. Now, granted, that wouldn't work if you were going to finish them like wood finishing, but they're painted. So they're old hardwood doors that have some fiberglass in them to patch them up and make them work. Well, that's my thoughts for today. Just was thinking about that from the perspective of doing that steering column, which I had a ball doing. And I thought, why not just circle back around to this topic again and talk about the reasons why I do what I do, which you've heard ad nauseum, I know. But also just in that little bit of the project, how much money we saved. And, you know, again, it's nothing wrong with doing things differently, but this is the way I do things, and this is why I do them. And, well, as you've heard me say before, this is my opinion, and it should be yours.
This is my opinion. It should be yours.
Thanks for watching. We will catch you on the next one.
Rock!